Hi everyone, welcome. In today's video, we're going to be rewinding the tapes and talking about the health mistakes that I made in my teens and early 20s. And while I wouldn't regret the mistakes that I made because of course it's made me who I am today, I would say that if I could tell my younger self these 8 things that I'm going to be telling you, I would definitely change some things to avoid some of the pain that I caused myself. So my goal for you for this video is that you can take something away in regards to my health journey and the things that I've learned to potentially avoid some of these missteps, or at least maybe improve the relationship that you have with your health and your body, because that's taken me a long time to develop, and that's what I want for you. So when I was 12, I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, also called IBS. And I did tell this story briefly in my first video, but for me, my IBS looked like bloating, gas, and severe abdominal pain. And while I do think that there was an association with my IBS symptoms to drinking milk, I was never actually formally diagnosed with lactose intolerance, but that's what I do tell people, because when I did the lactose intolerance test, it came back negative, like I didn't have lactose intolerance. But anyway, that's kind of a little bit more of a tangent that I don't want to go down. And I also believe my IBS symptoms, in addition to maybe being related to milk, to being related to my overall diet, which was very much the classic standard American diet. I ate a lot of meat, a lot of mashed potatoes, a lot of corn, but very little other vegetables. And I also ate a lot of processed packaged foods. I'm talking about Goldfish crackers, Cheez-Its, Scooby-Doo snacks, like the graham crackers. I also liked cereals for breakfast. I drank juice, like grape juice, just a lot of processed foods. And so that was definitely my mistake number one, is that as a kid, I know that we don't have full control over our diet, but eating so many processed foods is something that, and processed foods and also foods devoid of fiber and your micronutrients, that's something that by age 12, when I was changing over my diet, that I came to understand was important. And now it's very important to me. And one of the biggest takeaways in regards to that understanding that you need to eat more whole foods is that it's actually not too hard to get your body and specifically your gut microbiome to adapt to crave new foods. So when I was a kid, like I was telling you, the only vegetable I would pretty much eat is corn. And outside of that, like, forget it. I was not going to be eating it. I was a very picky kid. And okay, I have to confess that to this day, I still do not like bananas. It's one of the foods that I have tried so hard to like, and I just cannot. It has a very specific taste, and I just don't like it unless it's banana bread. That I can get behind. But my point is that when you try to incorporate new foods and a variety of foods into your diet, you might not like them at first. For me, this would be chickpeas, broccoli, a bunch of other veggies, Brussels sprouts. What else do I eat? A lot of cauliflower, radishes. Some of these foods I didn't really like before, but when I added them in time and again, over a period of like a couple months, I started to notice that my body actually craved those foods. I no longer was like disgusted by the texture or the taste, especially of like chickpeas. Really did not like any beans. But now I eat black beans, I eat chickpeas, I eat sweet potato, which was way too mushy for me before. And you just need to allow time. I would say give yourself 2 to 3 months to try to incorporate some new foods in and slowly see if your body adapts to start to like them. It's pretty impressive. I would say if you have kids, I do not have kids yet, but I would give them a little bit more time. Just try to sneak some new foods into their diet, especially if it's like veggies. That takes a long time for even adults to adapt to, let alone kids. But That was my mistake number one. Eating too many processed, refined foods, low in fiber, really backing up and causing congestion in my digestion, looking like constipation, the bloating, the abdominal pain. That is something I would avoid, really change. I do have a list, so my apologies if I'm looking down. I don't want to miss any of my tips. My second mistake is that I ignored food sensitivities. So there is kind of a lot of debate about food sensitivities or food allergens and what each of those mean. I will talk about that in a later video if you guys are interested. But for the purpose of this video, mostly I'm talking about when you eat a food. This is the definition I'm talking about is not necessarily a medical definition, but more of like an intuitive definition, which is another video that I want to make on eating intuitively, because there's a lot of controversy around that as well. But for the purpose of this mistake, I would ignore the foods that just felt bad in my body. Like when I ate them, like really spicy fried foods, like chicken wings with buffalo sauce or something. When I ate that, I just noticed that my stomach would feel really heavy and really full, especially when I ate too much, which of course, when you overeat any food, a lot of times you can feel like that heaviness in your stomach, you feel bloated, it doesn't feel good. Don't ignore those signs. Your body doesn't want to eat that much of that food, or maybe even that food at all. If you always react to a certain type of food, just try to eliminate it for a certain period of time and see if you feel any better. If you have classic GI symptoms like gas and bloating, abdominal pain, constipation, or even diarrhea, try to avoid the foods that you feel like trigger your digestive symptoms just for a short period of time. You can always reintroduce them. That is something I would highly recommend. At different periods of my life, apples have not sat well with me. What else? Definitely some highly like fatty, oily foods I've needed to just take a pause on. And then like now I eat apples, and now sometimes I don't really eat fried food to be honest, but sometimes I eat more oily foods and I'm okay. But just pay attention to things that you notice causing problems in your digestion again and again. Mistake number 3 that I made was overusing endurance training and using it as a punishment in a way. So when I was changing my diet around age 12, I realized, I guess, the power of diet, and also at that time I had stopped going to my soccer games. I had stopped playing in my soccer at my school, and I kind of found other fitness forms, and then I also found walking and running like as more of an exercise. There's definitely a difference between doing something to just be active, especially when you're younger, like the mindset. Walking for activity is great, but if you're using walking in the evening for 2 hours like I was doing, that is something, and also it's your relation to it, that can be a negative thing. And for me, at the same time that I was using endurance training as punishment, I was also under fueling. So the combination of that really impacted my mindset, or maybe my mindset was impacted before, having low self-esteem and wanting to change my body composition, that my relationship with exercise was not good. And the recommendation from my family doctor at the time was that you need to stop all activity. And so this is where in the future, and even in this video, you'll see that nuance is important. Where you are in your certain life stage is important. Your relationship to things is important. So if you're just trying to put on weight, like you are anorexic or you're underweight and you want to put on weight, eating processed foods is not the end all be all. But if you are struggling with your relationship with your body, you're feeling these digestive symptoms like I was talking about before, eating processed foods might be the first thing that you want to eliminate from your diet. And overall, Americans eat such a high amount of processed foods that that's a good recommendation. But the overtraining, I really had to take a break. Like that's what my family doctor had recommended, was to stop moving. And eventually, when I figured out my mental health, I was able to reincorporate exercise. And on that same coin, that whole experience happened when I was 13, 14, 15. Now I'm going to be 27, and only within the last couple years have I discovered the importance of strength training. So that would be my mistake number 4, is not doing strength training. And I don't know if you want to call me a classic woman or not, but I had the understanding that if I did weight training, that I would become bulky, or I'd look too full, and I didn't really want that look. Like I wanted a toned look, which we can talk more about in the future, what that actually means. But neglecting strength training is something that I think a lot of women, especially younger women and even older women as well, if they haven't started strength training or haven't had somebody to show them how the gym works, or haven't had a person in their corner to show them the moves at the gym, it can be really daunting. But that's something I would highly recommend young people, or any age people, start learning how to strength train. Start with just your body weight. Push-ups are one that a lot of us know and hate, but also lunges, different moves that you can do with just your body weight. If you're worried about injuring yourself, you can also do personal training, like one session, and just have them walk you through different movements and then work on that. You can go on YouTube and search different workout classes, and you can learn how to do the movements. But strength training is so important, with our peak bone mass being reached for women by age 30, and it's about the same for our muscle mass. And our muscle mass that we have in our body is what is going to really impact your metabolic rate. And so many people are worried about losing weight or looking a certain way. If you want to have an easier time losing weight, you want to have more muscle mass. So that's something I would highly recommend getting into as soon as possible. My 5th mistake that I made, which was at the same time that I was using exercise as punishment, I kind of already touched on this. My 5th mistake was undereating and caloric restriction. Unfortunately, with the pressures that are put on women by social media and even by our peers, it's really easy to fall into this trap of thinking that under-consuming calories is going to make us look better, feel more self-confident, and that is just not the case. What happened for me is I restricted my calories so much that I messed up my gut and killed off so much of my gut bacteria that I had even worse symptoms, similar to my IBS type symptoms, when I started refueling, because the bacteria that was remaining, I can only assume this, I suppose, should really be taken as personal story and not something that I put a lot of research into. But when I started refueling, symptoms of bloating, poor digestion, the constipation that I was dealing with my IBS was still very much a problem. And I would say it was exacerbated by my caloric restriction, because I'm killing off, when you're not eating enough, you're not fueling your microbes in your gut, so you're killing off even the good ones that are there to help you digest food. So then when you restart eating foods again, and especially like me, I eat a bunch of processed foods again, that's just going to cause worsening gut symptoms. So in general, I would recommend not doing a huge caloric restriction like I went through, really working on mental health, as that's something that was an underlying health struggle for me. And if you want to lose weight, that's going to be another video. It's going to be more about focusing on eliminating or reducing the processed foods and focusing on strength training and some endurance training or walking, kind of increasing your movement through the day. But also, it's going to involve my 6th mistake, which is neglecting sleep consistently. I think most people, when they're in their early 20s or really late teens and they're in college, kind of experiment with their sleep. And for me, I definitely neglected sleep in my first year of university. I would stay up very late, sometimes well after midnight, especially on Friday nights. And then I would wake up really early for classes in the morning and just thinking like, oh, I only need like 5-6 hours of sleep. I'm gonna be fine. I'll drink some caffeine. And I had decent energy, but now the energy that I feel is unmatched in comparison to that. It's so much better because my sleep routine is consistent now. I go to bed around 10 p.m., wake up around 6 a.m., and I just feel like that consistency, that sleep schedule that I found for me really works for my body. It's such an, I do think that people are talking about it more, especially with, that sleep guy, Mr. Walker, Matt Walker. He wrote an incredible book around sleep that I read a few years back, and he's been such a big proponent of sleep in the wellness space. But he's like, even so, I still feel like sleep is an underrated, I don't even know, wellness thing that people need to be doing more of. Mistake number 7 is that I let my friends dictate some of my health journey. When you're in college, it's a lot easier to be peer pressured or to be told like, hey, having this sleep routine, going to bed at 10 p.m. is not fun. Like, you're not cool. Or not watching Netflix, like, oh, now we have nothing to talk about because you haven't caught up on Love is Blind or this show or this movie, you haven't watched it yet. But honestly, I think one of the important things that you learn in your 20s is just how to connect with yourself and who you really are and what you really value. And we all come to this kind of understanding of self-acceptance and understanding of ourselves at different ages. But I would say I'm a very like intuitive, introverted type of person. I've spent a lot of time just listening to my own thoughts and being really present with myself. So I will say that even me, even in my more, I don't know how you describe it, even in my more inner or in tune personality, there were still times when I let my friends, like when I took offense to my friends saying that I'm no fun by not staying out late. But still honor that is you. Honor what you feel is right for your body. If you don't want to go out tonight, you just want to stay in and read your book, do that. If you want to go to the gym instead of going out and drinking, do that. If you want to go out and go drinking, do that. Like, it's all about kind of honoring what makes you feel like your best self. I think that's why I value health so much, is because I want to live my most vibrant, longest and healthiest life. And that's what I want for you guys as well. That's why I'm sharing these mistakes, so that you can really reflect and say like, hey, is this something that I'm doing? Is this something that I can incorporate more of? Or do I need to listen to more about how I'm feeling in myself now? Do I need to take a personal day? Do I need to read my book in the peace of my own, in my own place? And my last mistake number 8, is not managing stress in healthy ways. So I do have a story about this. When I was in my undergrad, in my 3rd year, that year before, I had just added on a second major. And so I was a dual degree in biochemistry and molecular genetics, which is a lot to say. It's a mouthful of words, and it's even more to take all the classes that relate to that. And that next year, as I was going into my 3rd year of school, I felt like I had elephant's legs. I felt exhausted, and I didn't know why, because at this point I did have my sleep routine dialed in very well, and I was eating a lot of nutritious whole foods. I was going to the gym. So I was just like unsure, like I'm living so much healthier than I used to live, and yet I have so much less energy. And it wasn't just the mental fatigue that I felt with all these classes, it was literally physical fatigue, And like I was saying, it felt like I had elephant's legs. Like to even walk felt kind of exhausting. Well, as it turns out, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. And this was not your Hashimoto's autoimmune type hypothyroidism. This was more of a subclinical hypothyroidism. And I took medication for it to hopefully resolve the symptoms. Honestly, it didn't really help. I tried 2 different medications, the levothyroxine and then the T3, T4 combination. And honestly, it didn't really have much impact on my energy and overall fatigue. Only later, after like, I don't know, 6 months to a year, I would say probably a year into getting that diagnosis, did I start to work on my stress? Did I start to go to more like meditative yoga classes and just allow, like I finished my degree, just allow a little bit more time for me to be with myself, do the things that I liked, like bring more joy into my life, that I noticed that I was feeling my energy again. And we retested my thyroid and I was doing so much better. And that's why I really just want to say that women, a lot of women, have different anecdotal stories about being stressed and symptoms that they experience. I know for my friends, a lot of things that they've told me, I'm just shocked to hear that it cleared up when their stress improved. So I would just caution you, or maybe just encourage you to pursue things that you enjoy, that bring that light back to you, and try as best you can to eliminate stress. At this point, stress is not acute like it used to be for humans in history, a long time ago. Like, we are inundated with stressful things every day, at work, at school, with our kids, our families, where we live, like our apartments, our houses, our cars, the things that we own, the stuff that we have can bring us a lot of stress. So make sure that you take a little bit of time for yourself every day if you can, if not every week, something to just decompress and help you to feel more energized in your being. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Please leave your comments and questions below. Share any experiences you have. Have you made any of these mistakes? Have you made similar or different mistakes in regards to your health? I would love to comment back and keep the conversation going. And I'd love you to see you in a future video. All right, take care, guys. Have a lovely day. Bye.